I think there's a connection between ancient cathedral buildings and the device that seems to be missing at the top, which is probably filled with red mercury. And it always happens to be at the top inside of the very highest bell tower. You can see the bells in this tower. And let's now jump to Nazi Germany, where we have what's called the bell, which is some sort of time travel or UFO machine. Nobody really knows. And then see if there's a connection between this object and a mysterious crash that happened up in Pennsylvania. So we get a little bit of everything in this one. We got the UFO crashes in North America, Hitler's mysterious technology in Nazi Germany, and a connection all the way back to the bell towers and the mysterious missing object, which seems to have been removed from the top of these cathedrals. At the top of a lot of these towers, we find them empty now, which seems that there likely was some type of device here and that it was removed at some point. And my first reaction on ones like this is, why is there two bell towers or even four bell towers? I think I remember seeing most cathedrals with, one bell tower, but there's a lot of examples with, of course, multiple bell towers. These are very common, and you'll find, two, four, any number of bell towers. Lots of examples of these towers and the missing bell device at the top. In fact, if we go back just a bit, this whole entire structure is the shape of a bell. It starts wider here, and you can see it slopes up, and this whole entire thing makes a big shape of a bell. We see the same thing in Mexico, the Mexico City Metropolitan Cathedral, and look at the top where the bell towers would be. The structure itself is built exactly in the shape of a bell. And I'm guessing what they're doing is they're modeling their architecture based on the device that's on the inside. Now, of course, modern day, there's bells in there that we ring and make the noise with. But was that actually the shape of the original devices which were removed? Because it looks like Hitler almost took one of these, structures off the top of a cathedral and brought it down into his lab where he made some type of time traveling or anti gravity device, which appears to have red mercury on the inside. Now, we believe that the device inside of these towers was likely filled with red mercury. Now, we believe that the mercury inside was spinning, and likely you had one section spinning in one direction and a separate spinning in the opposite direction. Historically, we find these golden flasks, which has it's used to hold something inside of it, some kind of a liquid. And here it's been broken and the liquid has been drained out. This one, the glass is missing. But there's hints that what was contained in these was a red liquid, likely the red mercury. And these were likely small devices to hold the red mercury in. And even from historical paintings, we can learn that a fluid held inside was certainly a red liquid. Now back to Nazi Germany and the mysterious Bell UFO or time traveling device, of which there's really no video or very little video. It's hard to say if this is authentic or not. The bell is visible with the rotating part on the lower. Here was the site where those experiments were carried out. Turning to the book The Hunt for Zero Point, it says that the project with this bell-shaped mysterious device had undergone two code names. Lantern Tracker, which means light bearer, and Kronos, which is an old god related to time. But it always involved Die Glock, the bell-shaped object that had glowed when under test. And when it says it glowed under test, the glow seems to be blue. We'll learn that in a moment. The bell itself was made out of hard heavy metal and was filled with a mercury-like substance. So the bell itself is filled with a mercury-like substance which is violet in color. Now, just what mercury-like substance is violet in color other than red mercury? This metallic liquid was stored in a tall, thin thermos flask a meter high, encased in lead 3 centimeters thick. The experiments always took place under a thick ceramic cover and involved the rapid spin in opposite directions. The mercury-like substance was codenamed Serum 525, and other substances used included thorium and beryllium peroxides, codenamed lichen metal, which means light metal. The chamber in which the experiments took place was situated in a gallery deep below ground, and they did a number of tests, with each test lasting approximately 1 minute. During this period, while the bell emitted its pale blue glow, personnel were kept 150 to 200 meters from it. So there it is, the blue glow, or the blue light, as mentioned on the previous page. It glowed when under test. That glow is a blue color, and they put various types of plants, animals, and animal tissue inside of the bell's sphere of influence. And plants, when they were introduced to it, chlorophyll was observed to decompose or disappear, turning the plants white 4 to 5 hours after the experiment. Within 14 hours, the plant completely decomposed into a substance that had the consistency of axle grease. So pretty crazy, because this thing just, within 24 hours, it seems, melts plants completely into some type of grease. A second set of experiments started in January 1945, and the people exposed to the program had all kinds of problems and backed out of the first team. It was disbanded because 5 of the 7 scientists died. All right, so what do we know so far about this thing? It looks like the device that's at the top of all of these ancient cathedrals. It is filled with red mercury, which rotates or counter rotates, and we don't know what the device is for, whether it's anti-gravity or a time machine. Now, the Germans were looking at gravity from a different perspective than everybody else, and they threw out Einsteinian physics, relativity physics, because this represented these guys' science. So they didn't believe in gravity as defined by Einstein and Freemason Isaac Newton with his universal law of gravitation. Now, in almost all accounts, the bell has some type of writing put around the lower rim of the bell. Here's another example of it with the writing along the lower edge. This is Reich of the Black Sun, and in this book, it talks about a UFO crash at Kecksburg, Pennsylvania in December of 1965, which was 20 years after the Nazi bell went missing. On December 9th, 1965, from northern Canada to western Pennsylvania, thousands of eyewitnesses described an orange fireball tearing across the evening sky towards the southeast, followed by a trail of smoke. Witnesses include pilots throughout Ontario, Michigan, Ohio, who were along the flight path of the object. And once it was in Ohio, it clearly demonstrated it was not a typical meteor nor a crash in the ordinary sense of space debris, as it stood still for a few seconds, and then changed its course towards Pennsylvania. Mrs. Jones called the local radio station and reported that there was a huge fireball which crashed in the woods 1.5 miles from here. Her children had been playing outside and first seen it, described it as a burning star. And what happened over the next few hours was bizarre, as U.S. Army, Air Force, and NASA scientists and technicians show up and place the village into martial law. The military and state police cordoned off the forest area, stationed armed guards at all roads, and transported a whole lot of equipment to the crash site. The Air Force took over the premises of the local volunteer fire station, and they forbid the firemen from entering into the station, and more military were brought in, including a huge radio transmitter. A little later, 2 large transport trucks, one of them bearing the insignia of the Army, were seen driving into the forest, and about the same time, people living close by saw a jet plane landing there